Hello and welcome back. So this session will be helpful for the people who have already experienced with PO and PI and started to understand what is CPI is all about, and they also have some documents read here and there, and they will be having some misconception based on the diagrams that they have seen or read some of the blogs in the internet. So this session will definitely help you remove some of the misconceptions that you have between CPI and PO, and also help you to see what is the real differences between these two. Okay, so let's jump into the topics and let's understand first the misconception. Then we can look into how to make a best choice, whether your interface should be on CPI or your interface should be on PO. That's basically the overall agenda for this session. So let's look at some of the misconceptions that we have around CPI and PO. The first thing is people might be confused between SAP and CPI. People say, oh, let's use SAP for integration, right? They are correct. They can also say let's use CPI for integration, even that is correct, right? Why? The difference is SAP is like Microsoft Office and CPI is like MS Word. So SAP is basically a collection of services, right? Integration is just part of it. CPI is an integration services of an SAP. So it's basically a child of your parent. And if you look at MS Office, you have MS Access, PowerPoint, MS Word. So CPI is like one of the services in SAP. Okay, so make sure you understand the difference between SAP and CPI and don't get confused with these two words. Second, earlier we used to call CPI as HCI. So make sure you understand that we no more call it as HCI. So stop calling it SCI. Okay, whenever you want to talk about SAP Cloud Platform Integration, you can spell it out SAP Cloud Platform Integration, or you can say CPI. Okay, or you can say SAP Integration Services. Okay, stop using HCI. CPI is not SAP PO software in cloud. So remove this assumption forever. Your PO server is not installed in cloud and call it as SAP CPI. That's a wrong assumption. So all the features that you have in PO, don't assume it will be available part of CPI because it's an advanced version of CPI. Don't even have a feature of it. It's a complete revamp. It's a complete rewritten code and a complete tool. A new tool is available in the cloud for integration services. There will not be any comparison from PO to CPI, and don't try to compare those things. Okay, PO has a different integration scenario challenges that to solve. CPI has a different ball game, and from a software perspective, they are completely different. CPI development will look like iFlow, so don't get confused. CPI development is not like NWBPM. It is an iFlows. iFlows doesn't mean it is NWBPM. NWBPM uses BPMN language, right? And it has a different way of creating, writing and deploying it. It uses iFlows to write the code, but don't have an assumption that CPI has iFlows so it can do BPMs. There's something called as workflow in cloud. We can use that to solve our BPM challenges. Okay, SAP iFlow can be developed with Eclipse software as well. Okay, it's not that we have to go into cloud and only develop the iFlows there. We can even use Eclipse. We can stick to whatever iFlow methods that we know how to write with Eclipse, and we can deploy that iFlow down back to our CPI software as well. CPI uses Groovy script. So the question people typically ask me is, okay, so I have to learn Groovy script and become a master? No, you don't have to learn Groovy script to become a master. It's basically an option in CPI for us to drag and drop one of the script in the iFlow, and then you can write the code in the Groovy script. That's the only feature. If you don't want to use that feature as a custom development, you don't have to learn Groovy at all. Okay, so there you are, all the misconceptions that basically I hear around all the people talking each other. So I hear them asking these questions in the forums and the Q&A session. So I believe some of the misconception that you have around CPI is clarified by now. Okay, so let's move on and let's understand what is the real differences between CPI and PO. Okay, so let's understand the differences between CPI and PO. And when you have an interface development, where to develop and what are the benefits that you're gonna get from CPI or versus PO. The first thing that you have to understand that CPI is a subscription based model wherein you don't pay for the software, right? You pay for the things that you use in the CPI. If you write one interface and that interface is pulling up some amount of data, then you pay for those connections that you make via the CPI. In PO, you basically don't do that. You can create n number of interface, you can do whatever you want to do in PO software. You only pay for the product price, you also pay for the annual maintenance price. CPI, you don't have to do that. You just pay per use. Whatever you're using, all the services, you pay for what you're using inside the CPI. We're going to deep down into the cost and licensing later. You'll understand how the subscription model works in CPI. But on a very high level, remember this difference. Second, the support for data integration and the process integration. So CPI is not just PO, right? CPI has many different components attached to it. You can do RabbitMQ, data integration, OData services, cloud connectors, and then your integration flows. Wherein PO is just only the process orchestration. In CPI, you have up-to-date software. So it basically helps us to solve many challenges that we have. If you have been in PI and PO, you know there's going to be a maintenance. You know there's going to be a migration. You also know your service pack has to be upgraded. You never get to use all the top features that is available, maybe part of the next version. You have to wait, upgrade your system, make sure it's working fine. You have to run it as a project. In CPI, all these things are removed by going into cloud, right? Your software is automatically updated and you don't have to worry about it. They won't break what is already working. They just add new components, and then when there's a bug fix, they just resolve it and you don't even know about it. It's an automatic schedule wherein automatically your software get updated. The good thing about the software of SAP CPI, everybody get to use one software. That's the beauty of it. We only create a subscription for the software and we get to have the latest software that's running up and running in the cloud. Where in PO, you have to plan for all those activity and then you have to maintain the software yourself. And the best features of cloud, we all know it's a resource scaling. You can bring your resource up and down. You can add 10 GB just in 1 minute. You can add 100 gigabytes of the space in just 1 minute. It's just the cloud scaling features. Then you get virtualization, data centers, HA, DR, all this is already given to you because you're using cloud-based services. For us, in SAP PO, we used to maintain all the infrastructure. We have HA high availability. We have to do an auto sync of HA every couple of minutes. Then you have DR. You have to plan a DR activity every 6 months. Then you have to have the scaling of the resource, which is not automatic as well. You have to wait for a weekend, do an outage, bump up your RAM, then restart it, and then you get to know some new issues. All those things is been resolved. If your company is dealing with all those issues, you don't want to take care of all those things. You have to move on to SAP CPI because that's all the benefit that CPI and cloud features will give us. Okay, I hope these high level features will help you understand why we have to move to CPI and what are the benefits of having a new tool in cloud from SAP. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic.